Yeah.
We are live.
Woo! Hello.
Everybody's here.
Hello, everyone. We've got Bonnie Ramsey and Susie Adamson with us today from Adamson Ramsey Homes. They, well, do you guys mind introducing yourselves a little bit where you specialize? That's the whole thing.
Sure. So I'm Bonnie Ramsey, and to my left, you're right. I don't know. There's Susie. We're Adamson Ramsey Homes with Hearth Realty Group. Our office is in South Orange, New Jersey, and we serve the commuter line train towns on the Midtown Direct train in Essex County, New Jersey. So we have a lot of New York City transplants, a lot of Jersey City, Hoboken. We kind of serve the towns where people move if they want a house with a little patch of grass and they want to still be able to commute into the city.
And given that there are 5 million towns in New Jersey, for those of you who don't know the towns in Essex County, the primary areas that we serve are Maplewood, South Orange, Livingston, Short Hills, Milburn, West Orange, Montclair, Glen Ridge, Bloomfield. I think I got most of the ones that we serve, but most of the areas that are just west of Hudson County, a little bit further out into the suburbs, but we don't typically consider ourselves super suburban. It's a very urbane area. So this is the next step away from the city, but still a very urbane and cosmopolitan community.
Yes, a walkable area, but you can still have a yard.
So it's between, we had a conversation not long ago about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got strong metro, which we were considering. We're kind of on the edge of that strong metro area. Then you have a middle ground that's very commuter centric, but people want lawns and driveways and things like that. And then the suburbs, and you consider yourself just slightly outside of. You consider yourself just inside the suburbs in the primary commute area, because actually, for people that don't understand the landscape out here, everybody understands getting on a train and going to work in the city. And for those people that want a lawn, want a garage, want an easy commute, that's what we're talking. That's why we're talking to you today. That's why we're all together today to talk about that.
Because we've got people.
And Bonnie and I was just going to say we're particularly tuned into the people that we're meant to be talking to today, because we both lived in Brooklyn, and then I made the move over to Hoboken, and so it seems to be a common trajectory that we're seeing, people coming from the city to then Jersey City and Hoboken, and then maybe out a little bit farther. So we get that transition. Yep.
And sometimes we end up talking to people that are skipping. You know, they'll look here and they're like, I don't know. I think I want to go a little further south, which is how we know you two, because we work with you on those kinds of deals. So that's awesome.
Right, which means we're going to jump right into the information now. Our whole point is the grass really greener when you have a yard?
It is.
I think that's such a good title. Bonnie, you thought of it. I can't take credit. So our big question, and especially now, because there are so many people who are in Manhattan or in Hoboken who are looking at New Jersey, and they're not sure they want to go to Hoboken and New Jersey because it's just more of the urban environment, and they're trying to find something where they can have a little space in a yard and they don't have to go crazy inside, which is why we want to talk to you about how COVID-19 is hitting the market there, and if you're seeing an influx of buyers and what the sellers are looking like. So what is your current market overview for your area?
Yeah, I think we should start by saying that in January and February, we were on the trajectory to have the busiest January and February ever for New Jersey housing market. So we have a very strong market. Yeah. And even though New York City has really been slowing down for a while, we haven't really seen a slowdown. And I think that's just a testament to more people, millennials, people just really want a little patch of grass, somewhere to, bedrooms for their kids, things like that. But obviously things have changed, and we like everyone else, our market kind of came to a screeching halt mid-March. But then it started back up again. And I think that's because, well, we know it's because a lot of people in the city feel cramped, and they're reconsidering their housing situation. And they have deemed real estate in New Jersey as a necessary
Essential
thing,
business.
as essential business. And so we are allowed to continue to show homes. But that being said, we are taking a lot of precautions, and our inventory has really slowed down because there are a lot of people who don't want their home on the market, or they don't want strangers coming through their house. So we are navigating that in a new way. But
Right.
our market
And we did,
is still going.
right. And when we did all come to a halt because everyone was ordered to stay home, Bonnie and I certainly followed suit and wanted to be as responsible as possible, and have slowly started to, I mean, we never really stopped working, but we started to reopen our business and start opening doors again, literally, because we had the requests come in from buyers and sellers. So we are not in any shape or form trying to take advantage of a bad situation. We are right there with everyone else, trying to keep our family safe and trying to be really responsible to our community. And so every time we talk to buyers, we make sure that they are super serious about, looking at a home, and very aware of what's vacant, very aware of what is still occupied, and being responsible to homeowners. So, we know this is a really heavy and intense time for people. And so we're just trying to be responsive to the needs while being responsible.
Yeah. So giving an overview of what you're seeing now is people doing what you're doing, being responsible and staying home, but also still coming out. I mean, Bonnie just mentioned an uptick in activity in spite of this. And I know that you were telling us about a bidding war that you just entered into.
Yeah, I think that what happened just last week, because even if we'd had this conversation, we were saying, a week or two ago, it would have been a very different conversation. I think we were keeping on top of how the process was changing because we still had contracts pending. And so we wanted to make sure our town's still doing inspections, our, attorneys still doing closings. So we were certainly keeping on top of that. But just as of last week, it seemed like once everybody realized that we're going to be staying home a lot longer than any of us had thought or hoped, it felt like, and we were seeing for our own clients as well as from what our colleagues are saying, that there were new people saying, okay, all right, we can't stay here anymore. We can't stay in our current situation for another month or 2 or 3 or 4. Now, we're going to step outside and, again, as responsibly as possible. So yeah, we put in an offer yesterday on a home, and it had sat originally for a month, and there were 2 other offers that we had to compete with all of a sudden. So it does feel like not only did our clients start coming out of their homes, others did as well. So
yeah, speaking of people trying to escape, being confined, I know that there are a lot of New Yorkers who are looking for short-term rentals in different places in New Jersey. The wealthier people are looking down on the shore, and I know
the Hamptons.
And in the
upstate.
Hamptons.
Yes.
But your area is also a pretty solid option. Are you seeing any, are you getting requests for that?
We definitely had a handful of people call us right away in March to look for a house to rent. I would say there aren't that many left homes to rent. There are a handful, and we can certainly help people find a rental, and they can rent in apartment buildings, but that isn't necessarily what people are looking for right now. They kind of want a private outdoor space. Right. But they're continuing to trickle on the market, and some people who were formerly going to sell their homes are now considering holding on to them and renting them for a while. But spread across all the towns we serve, there certainly are homes that people can rent with backyards.
Right. As we talked about yesterday, I think we're seeing lots of kind of readjusting of the market as each day goes on. It does feel like, to Bonnie's point, there was an influx of people wanting short-term rentals, but as people who are getting ready to sell in the spring maybe don't want to go on right now because of the number of people that would be in their home, or because, they don't know what the market's doing. They are looking at maybe renting out their home. So we are seeing from our colleagues, we're hearing from them as well, that they have clients who are looking for rentals.
That was my question about the sellers that you interact with and the things that you're seeing on the market. When you're advising people who were thinking about selling their home, would you recommend that they rent it out instead of try to sell it right now?
Well, we're actually expecting things to pick up as far as, we're waiting from the government to tell us when it's a little safer to go outside. And when things open up, we're expecting a lot more inventory to come on and a lot of more buyers to come out. So I think during that period, if you need to sell, it will be a smart time to sell because we will have an influx of buyers. But long term, we're not sure. It's hard for us to forecast, what is going to happen in the fall versus next winter versus next spring. Some people are saying we're going to be back to what we were, the trajectory we were on, to have a really strong market, a great spring market. But of course, no one really knows what is going to happen long term with the virus. So, but in the short term, it looks like, if somebody needs to sell and was planning to sell, that there will be a good opportunity in the next several months to get, to sell your house for a decent price and potentially with competition. After that, we're not sure what's going to happen.
I think a lot of sellers are holding off, but expecting to be able to sell in a couple months.
If you were a buyer looking in your neighborhoods, it would probably be smarter to be in touch with you sooner than later. Wouldn't you think? Because
From
I
the
think,
buyer
I think later, it may turn into a little more of a seller's market. So the buyers
and we have been saying to our clients who have reached out to us, or if people, our past clients say, might have friends who are looking after this is all over, we say, please have them get in touch with us sooner rather than later, because to your point, Bill, it will become a seller's market at some point when the market reopens. And even if they're not ready, even if they're not looking to leave their homes and go see homes, we can still be getting them prepared to go, right? So we're doing our virtual buyers consultations. We are telling them about what's on the market and what they can expect. We're doing sort of virtual area tours. We did an area tour the other day on Saturday or Sunday where we just were in our own cars on our phones, sort of like walkie-talkies, and did the area tour so that they were ready. And then we also, can line them up with lenders and attorneys and just be ready to go. And if they're not ready when the market reopens, then they're going to be at a disadvantage.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's such I have buyers who are waiting until they know what's going to happen next. And just looking at those numbers alone and assuming almost every realtor is in the same position. I also have sellers who are waiting. So I'm curious to see how that plays out, because there are a lot of sellers who, just like we were talking about, they don't want to list right now because it's a lot of days on market and they're not going to get very many offers. So they would rather wait until buyers can come and see en masse, and then they can have a bidding war for their property. So the fact that both parties have removed themselves from the market and then both will come back in, I don't know what numbers to expect.
If I want to go ahead,
I was just going to say, the other thing that we're doing for a lot of the buyers that are contacting us now is that we have been in touch with many of our colleagues, because we have such good relationships with not just our Hearth agents, but agents at every brokerage in the area. And we have been texting and calling them and saying, what exclusives and coming soons do you have, so that our buyers have first access? And we have been on calls every day, hearing about what inventory we can get our buyers in to see virtually, even before they're on the market. So, again,
it's a little bit like matchmaking. We're matchmaking with the inventory that's not even available publicly or on the MLS, which is another reason to get in touch with an agent or with us. We can help figure out what exactly you need, what you can afford, and then we can find out if there's a house kind of in its waiting period, and maybe those sellers would be willing to make a deal. And we're seeing that happening all the time.
Yeah,
so
and that's especially
also,
true because we're now extending the time that we think we're going to be at home. So many
Right.
of those sellers who are like, well, I don't really want people in my house yet, but I'm not sure how long this is going to take, and I do want to sell my house.
Yeah.
So, now they're kind of starting to be open to the idea of doing a virtual tour, even if the house isn't ready, even if it's not staged, it's not, it's still better than waiting too long.
I want to interject something that's a little off script, because the people that are listening to this probably aren't really familiar with where you're at. But I want to say that you have the most charming, gorgeous housing stock. That when you look at magazines and you see the mature trees and the wonderful architecture of a home and the way that home is laid out on its grounds, people in Hoboken, Jersey City, the places where we're at all the time, if they actually are thinking about moving at all, they drive to where you're at. Our best friends who work at Forbes love your area, and one of them in particular, who is always on real estate sites, is always sending me, it's like, look at this place in Montclair, look at this place in South Orange, how do they have so many beautiful homes there? And it's we get it as realtors, we get into the logistics of what we're dealing with, and the below the surface stuff that we have to swim through to help make things work. But I'm telling you, if you're watching this and you don't know that area, it's drop dead gorgeous. And
it's a really great point.
You can sell a 2-bedroom condo in Manhattan and end up on a half-acre lot with a gorgeous arts and crafts home, garage, yard, landscaping. Would you agree with that? Am I telling the truth?
No, it's totally true. And this is a very good time to take a drive out here. No obligation, just take a drive, because it's not crowded.
Really true. No traffic.
In the safety of your car.
Gets you out of your house.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that you'll fall in love with this area because it just sells itself.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I mean, frankly, I'm smitten with if I could turn my computer, my Manhattan view here, but it's gorgeous out there. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I would add to that, price point wise, we have homes that start in the 300s. They're smaller starter homes. They may be a little closer to the neighbor, smaller lot, all the way up into the, $2 million range and onwards of that as you get into Montclair and
Short Hills.
But to compare what you could afford in the city, if you're paying $4,000 a month in rent, you could afford a 4-bedroom house. On a 1/4 acre lot, possibly with a garage, maybe a finished basement. Most of our homes were built in the 1920s, and then there are some additional homes built in the 50s where they developed, some areas later, and you can find some mid-century ranches and some more interesting homes. But we do have a lot of colonials, a lot of Tudors, some arts and crafts. Victorians are very popular in South Orange specifically. But there is kind of something for everyone, if you will, and for every budget.
And I think what people are seeing is that as they're stuck at home with let's say they only have, they might have 4 people in the house, and everybody is doing their thing online. They're having their online classes, and then they're having their webinars and their Zoom meetings. In our home, we're grateful we have a space for everybody to be in. So it doesn't feel as awful all being home at the same time. And then we all go outside in the backyard and run around and take walks around our neighborhood at our 6-foot distance. And, we have space to do that. Whereas it's much harder to do in an urban area.
Which is why we wanted to talk to you.
That's why we're having the conversation. And I can see a lot of people that are now working at home in too tight a space that are saying, I want more space. I know I can work from home. I like working from home, but I'd love to work from a home that I can have some elbow room in, and that I can go outside and not, if you're in Manhattan, even if you're in, downtown Hoboken, when you hit the sidewalk, you're going to run into quite a few people. But in your neighborhood, No, you can go out in your own yard, mow the lawn, sit in a hammock, sit on the porch and drink a glass of wine or whatever.
I want to go a little off
lifestyle.
script too, because you just reminded me for some reason that one of the things that we're seeing, a trend that we're seeing, is every day I find that one of my local friends has gotten a dog. And, in this season of like all of us needing a little bit more comfort and, I think emotional well-being is certainly at risk. We are seeing a lot of people adopt dogs. I'm not kidding. Every single day I see a new family with a dog, and here you can do that. You can have a dog and have them run outside, and it just makes you feel better.
It's taking sheer force of will for me not to get one.
Me too, but I'm not doing it.
We did get a dog, I have to admit it, but we got her in January. Yeah, we got her in January. So it's been a few months, but it's been so nice just to have a little snuggle bug, it's comforting. So
that's cute.
Well, do you guys have anything else you want to add to buyers and sellers who might be, or renters who are thinking about being buyers, who are looking in that area before we wrap up? Your final words?
I would say that, there's no obligation. If you want to call us and just ask questions, or we can kind of go through the process of buying here, which is unique. New Jersey is different than the way New York handles things, and we might even handle things differently than in Jersey City and Hoboken. But there's no obligation, and I really think, make the phone call and we'll talk you through things. And we want you to make the best decision for yourself, and we're not pushy. We just want to educate you and tell you what your options are. That's really our goal, is to serve our community and to help people, especially right now when people are struggling in their spaces and they just want to know what their options are. So no obligation. We're just happy to answer your questions.
Well, we love,
Definitely.
I know it sounds corny to a lot of people, but you become the people, our clients really become pretty close friends, and they're very long lasting relationships that have a lot of value. And you don't hand off clients from, like, when we have somebody that is needing to go west and we don't know the neighbor, we can't help them a lot, especially on the buyer side. A buyer really needs local knowledge to be able to know what they're doing. We want that relationship to stay strong, which means you have to really trust the people that you're handing them off to, which is why we work with you two. You're awesome. And
thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
They're so professional and friendly, and
we feel the same way.
Same way about the both of you.
Oh,
yes.
Thanks,
and to that point, we do also have very trusted colleagues further west. Should you decide to even, leapfrog this area, we have colleagues that we trust in the other counties of New Jersey. So whether or not you're looking in Essex County or Bergen County or anywhere else, we can certainly help with that.
Yeah, that's one of the great things I love about this industry.
How do you recommend people reach out to you?
Oh, great question. So you can email us, info@adamsonramsey.com, or you can call us, you can text us. I guess the best way to get our contact information would be to go on our website, adamsonramsey.com. You can also go on our Zillow page to see lots and lots of fan mail that we appreciate from our past clients, and so that you can get a real feel for how we work. And to Bill's point, we really absolutely treat our clients as future friends, because we tell them all the time, we live here, we're going to see you. It's in our best interest to make sure that when we run into you downtown, you're going to want to see us.
Well, thank you guys very much for doing this. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a great conversation.
Yeah.
Let's do it again. We'll do it again soon.
Sounds good. Yeah, when we can actually see each other without masks and gloves on, right?
Yeah, so we can go get lunch at Arturo's.
That's right.
Yes.
That's awesome.
All right. Take care, everybody. Good to
All right.
see you.
Hey,